These movies are so good. Hell, they're great. I've seen Spider-Man Homecoming more times than I can count, and I've seen Spider-Man Far From Home just as many times, and I can't get enough of them. They're fucking amazing. Not only do they provide us with grounded stories that further the plot of the MCU, but they're a breath of fresh air within the MCU and Spider-Man movies as a whole, really. There's excellent acting, the comedy is the best from the MCU, the action is great, and the villains are amazing. So why? Why on earth are there a good chunk of people that just don't enjoy these movies? I think this is due to the fact that so many people online recently have expressed their opinions on how this incarnation of the web swinger isn't like what they grew up with. Some have been more passionate about it than others. But no, all kidding aside, even when not compared to the Holy Trilogy, there are people that just don't think these are good Spider-Man movies. But I personally believe a lot of criticism that Tom Holland's Spider-Man receives just isn't fair. So I'm going to look at some of the most common criticisms of these films and tell you why they kinda suck. Okay, this is probably the one I hate the most. Like, if you just watched the movies, you'd know that this isn't true. Spider-Man struggles time and time again in these movies. He gets saved a couple times, yes, but him getting his life saved by people that care about him doesn't mean he doesn't struggle. This kid is constantly getting beat up and put in shitty situations time after time, especially in Far From Home. Now onto the topic of relatability. This is the most relatable Peter Parker we've gotten. It's hilarious really when people say he's not relatable because he's not always complaining about how he's poor. Again, if you just watch these movies, it's clear as day that him and Aunt May are poor. In Civil War, they literally say he was dumpster diving.
Oh, what do we have here? Retro tech, huh? Thrift store? Salvation Army?
The garbage, actually.
You're a dumpster diver.
Yeah, I was...
Peter's bedroom is incredibly small. May's car is noticeably shittier than any other car around it. Peter has an Android phone. Also, if we look at his first suit when he started fighting crime compared to the other two Spider-Man suits when they first started fighting crime, yeah, we don't need it shoved down our throats constantly. We all know that Spider-Man is poor. Peter's classmates are also very relatable. This is my favorite version of Flash Thompson because he's not shooting spitballs at Peter and asking for his lunch money. He's just a dick. Again, I'm in high school and this is a much more realistic interpretation of a bully. And come on, Peter and Ned's relationship is so adorable. We all have a friendship like this with someone. Maguire and Franco's relationship was nowhere near as good as this. I didn't buy that these two were friends until like the last 5 minutes of the final movie in the trilogy. Okay, another thing is, when it comes to getting the girl, everyone says Peter in these movies just gets the girl with no consequences. Like, did you see Spider-Man Homecoming? He literally chooses his responsibilities over the girl of his dream, which in turn causes her to have to leave the state because her dad is now a criminal. If we're comparing movies, at least Andrew and Toby got to kiss the girl they liked in their first movies. Tom doesn't get that luxury. He doesn't get the girl until the end of Far From Home, which again, if we're gonna compare movies like people like to do, this also happens in the Holy Trilogy. So go off, whatever. These films take place within an entire universe. These aren't isolated events anymore, like how they were in the Raimi trilogy or the two Amazing Spider-Man films. The man that is the current face of an entire cinematic universe will obviously have some type of presence in the life of the next face of that universe. Because we all know Spider-Man is definitely going to be the next face of the MCU. There are also people who don't like that the villains are tied to Tony Stark. Okay. In the Sam Raimi films, again, since people like to compare these movies to those, the goal is to make all the villains be close to Peter Parker. Green Goblin is the dad of Peter's best friend. Doc Ock knows Peter's best friend well and even has dinner with Peter. Little Goblin Jr. is literally Peter's best friend. Venom is his co-worker, and they even retconned Sandman to be Uncle Ben's killer. This is the same reason the villains of the MCU Spider-Man are tied to Tony Stark, to tie them to Peter Parker. But Homecoming doesn't just rely on Tony Stark as a middleman. Adrian Toomes is also the father of the girl Peter is taking to homecoming, the girl he has a crush on. And Mysterio takes the time to get to know Peter, sit down one-on-one with him, and build a genuine bond, just like Otto did in Spider-Man 2. I really just don't think it's fair to call out MCU Spider-Man for doing the same tactics from the movies that everyone loves. Okay, I won't lie to you. At first, I agreed with this. But then, similar to the Parkers being poor thing, if you just watch these movies, it's clear that Uncle Ben existed and that he had a gigantic impact on Peter. We don't need Uncle Ben shoved down our throats constantly. It's the same reason we didn't get an origin story for this Peter. The fact that Peter is even Spider-Man in these movies just proves that there was an Uncle Ben who Peter cared for. Him losing Uncle Ben is the reason he constantly attaches on to all the male figures that enter his life. Tony Stark, Happy Hogan, Mysterio. He clearly had an Uncle Ben that changed his life, and he clearly went through the same tragic event that every Peter has gone through that shaped them into the man, into the Spider-Man that they are.
Look, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.